This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 5th of December, 2019, and I am DM.
I am Tuam.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Star, RUTO MPs force UHURU team to cancel BBI meet.
Wow,
Yes.
strong.
In the Standard, the Raela I know, and Daily Nation, how Miguna's return jolted NASA principles.
Yes.
I'm also scared for that last headline, but let's start with RUTO.
Yes.
And his team being forced to cancel.
Yes. So the backstory of this is this.
Yes.
Apparently, there is a group called the Mount Kenya Foundation,
Okay.
and it got two MPs, Cecily Mbarire and Kaharu MP. What's his name? Not that one. This Kanata, Yerongo Kanata.
Okay.
And they got them. They got them to send a memo to all Mount Kenya MPs, calling them for a breakfast meeting, and seeing how they can be able to ensure BBI goes through the people, not through Parliament. And they actually got insults on their phones because the RUTO side of the GEMA side
messaging.
of RUTO, yes, did not like the approach or something like that.
And
So
is this what has set off the president's tirade?
seems like so.
The video that's been going.
Yes, so for those that
Round.
don't have context, Uhuru Kenyatta was at Mangu yesterday launching a dispensary, and he went off at GEMA MPs and probably even RUTO
Yeah.
for his is it indifference to BBI or for his rebellion on BBI.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking to myself, guys, I don't know why the anger. And I keep telling you, Uhuru Kenyatta's greatest asset is charm.
Yeah.
Right? He can be able to go to central Kenya and in 1 month,
Yes.
he'd be able to fix everything.
Wow.
Just go to markets
Is
and,
it that simple?
and Nyamachoma. Yes, I think Uhuru Kenyatta can just go smile, kiss babies, dance with women, and drink with men, and he would be able to sort this thing
It's the
out.
permanent political question to him. Is it better to be loved or to be feared?
Now, I mean,
And also, will charm fix the whole economy?
I actually think it will. The thing with charm is it fixes confidence.
Well,
If- if you have an image problem, if you have a confidence problem, the thing that will actually set it off is charm. You just go smile with everybody. Hey, hi, Pastor. How
And if
are
it
you?"
doesn't work, I think people in power should despise love,
Look,
as Machiavelli tells
I
us.
think you should use both in equal measure. There's time for fear, use fear. It is time for charm, use charm. And I think it's time for charm.
And I think what's interesting is BBI has created this huge debate, right? And so people being told to not meet, to not talk about it, to not discuss what their strategies are going to be is silly.
Yes.
We've created this democratic space to speak to each other and to have an
Absolutely.
opinion.
So it goes against the constitutional right
And listen, there is a
of
quote.
free expression.
There is a quote by Mark Twain that says, "Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak
and to
And
confirm.
and remove all doubt." On that note, we do have a three-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative?
Yeah.
Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it effective or thoughtful?
Yes.
Or just plain lazy?
Yes.
It's definitely very topical because the BBI is on everybody's lips and every's interested
Yes,
about it.
and whether they can force Uhuru to do something
Yes.
is a whole other ballgame.
Oh,
Let's start there. This is the president, guys.
Yeah, so it's thoughtful to that
Yeah,
extent
it
that they did say that somebody is forcing
Yes.
the Uhuru team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's park that for now.
Right.
In the Standard and the Daily Nation, we have a continuation. So yesterday, you guys, I think, also discussed the serialization of Musalia's book.
Yes.
DM, what was the title again?
The-
Something passion.
The passion,
passion.
the soaring above the storms of passion.
Yes.
Jesus.
So in day two,
That doesn't remind you of a melodrama. I don't know what will.
yes. And so in day two, we have in the Daily Nation, he describes how Miguna jolted NASA principles.
Yes.
And so they describe October 25th.
Yeah.
So we've nullified the election.
Yeah.
There's now a repeat poll.
Yes.
And then now the NASA principals are like, what are we going to tell people? Because
Yeah.
we boycotted,
Yeah.
but Raila's name still appeared on the ballot,
Yes.
despite him wanting that.
Yes.
So Musalia describes this as throwing them off balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's a crowd at Uhuru Park on October 25th.
Yes.
And they're going to vote the next day, but
Yeah.
he didn't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Musalia talks about this brief period where the principals
Yes.
don't know what to tell their masses.
Yeah.
And so he goes up eventually on the day,
Yes.
and he says stuff like, we will not recognize Uhuru Kenyatta as the president, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But then he also realizes the crowd is not so psyched. And so he decides to talk about this NRM,
Yes.
the National Resistance Movement.
Yes.
So he says that it came up with NASA,
Yes.
but Miguna actually had formed it
Yes.
at some point before.
So what he's saying is that Raila actually hijacked
yes.
Miguna's brainchild.
Exactly.
Yeah, what
Exactly.
he masterminded.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even on the Standard, it's an expose of Raila's political treachery.
Yes.
But here he focuses on 2007
Yes.
when they were forming the Pentagon. And again, Musalia Mudavadi said that they didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Him and William Ruto just suddenly saw other people falling off. Najib Balala, his
Charity Ngilu.
they all
Yes.
gave up the front runner position
Yes.
in favor of Raila. And William Ruto asking us, so is this what we were also supposed to be doing? Because that obviously looks like the game plan.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that he describes how after Najib Balala stepped down, he walked around the auditorium. I don't know if this was in Bomas. Silently weeping to himself. And he says, I don't know why he was crying, but I don't know, we are left to speculate. Maybe he received a notification on his phone from the bank that he has received a reward.
You ask yourself this question. Why would Musalia write this book?
And why release it at this moment?
At this moment, and sort of disparage Raila. Is he spoke there are probably two solutions, possibilities here. Maybe he is angling to be the compromise candidate in 2022.
Yes.
Or he's also angling to be William Ruto's deputy come 2022 because William Ruto may not trust GEMA as much.
Well, and we're definitely seeing a pattern here for former Raila allies publishing political secrets thereafter.
Exactly.
Yes.
Interesting. So what do we say about the headlines and who's going to get it?
I think the Standard has really been on a roll lately. The Raila I know, how concise and punchy is that?
Exactly.
And you want to, it promises secrets. It promises the revelation of secrets.
It all sounds like yesterday was when good friends become enemies. And now it is the Raila I know. The editor is fantastic.
There you go. The Standard gives us our winning headline. Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a three-part criteria that we use. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Yes, and here we have a drawing. And a drawing of a car that has been clamped. And the wheel cap on the car is in Nairobi's county government flag. And the clamp is labeled High Court. And the car is labeled parking fees.
Looking at this cartoon is like watching grass grow. It is boring. Boring. Can I toss this?
Okay, tossing. But the context really quickly was Sonko's raised fees for parking have now been suspended by the Supreme Court. So you may go back to town.
Yeah, it's happy news.
Yes.
So Gado has a comic strip today, but it's an interesting one. And in the first montage, we can see Raela Odinga shaking hands with Moi, and somebody there is saying, Moi tricked you.
Yes.
Then the next one, he's shaking hands with Kibaki. This person is saying, Kibaki lied to you.
Yes.
The third one, he's shaking hands with Uhuru Kenyatta, and the person is saying, what makes you think this handshake will work? With Uhuru will work. And then finally it is revealed that the person who is talking is actually William Ruto, and he's telling him, if he had to dump me to get you. That is so interesting.
It was such a good commentary by Gado, and it reminded me of that nothing is permanent in politics.
Yes.
Only interests.
Yes,
exactly.
There are no permanent friends or permanent enemies. The only thing permanent are interests.
But he's giving Raila food for thought, telling him, if you are being betrayed by this, if I am being betrayed by this person in your favor, what makes you think
that you will
that
be
he's
betrayed?
not going to do the same thing to you? And previous presidents have also not done you well.
And if you remember, we have on this table previously said, maybe in all this setup, there's one man being played, and that is Raela Odinga. But just what if, guys, that is not the case? Does it mean then Raila and Ruto at some point will come together and do an anti-GEMA election?
Well, if you can't convince them, you can confuse them, which is what we are.
Ruto is president in 2022. In March of
When?
in March of 2023,
You're very sure.
we'll see another handshake at the steps of Harambe, and it will be Raela and Ruto. So we put this in the parking, right?
Yes.
Cartoon.
Yes, caricature of, this is Ndula, caricature of Nick Mwendwa, I think FKF CEO, I don't know, Secretary General, and he has a seat stuck
On his bottom.
yes. And,
To his bottom.
yes, and there is a surgeon who is planning to remove this seat stuck to his bottom. And the caption there is, a chronic topical condition found in African soccer. Where
Nick is saying?
Yes, where Nick is saying, I'll live never. Yes.
Oi.
Which is, I mean, it's all right.
I won't pretend to have a commentary about things football.
Yeah,
I can only relate it to African politics.
No, what you're saying is this.
It's a perennial
I think has he been elected the second time as FKF Supremo? Yes, and they say we should leave the seat to other people to come and sit. But I think it's very boring.
So we have a clear winner.
Wow, and we have a double win. So we have a winning cartoon from Gado.
Yes.
What is our final thought?
Now, our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by an Israeli writer called Yuval Noah Harari.
Harari.
Yes.
Yeah, a writer and
Harari.
a professor.
Yeah.
He's a historian.
Yeah.
And we've talked about his books here before. We talked about, I think we read Sapiens
Yes.
and
Homo Deus.
Homo Deus.
Deus,
Sapiens,
yes.
which is a historical book, and Homo Deus is looking into the future. So today we're looking at the lessons for the 21st century, which is focusing on the present.
Yes.
So Harari in this book confronts some of the biggest questions of the 21st century. He says in the introduction of the book that maintaining clarity in a world that is flooded and inundated with information is very, very important. And he says this, which I thought is very powerful.
Yeah.
If you do not participate or make contributions to decisions about the future of the world, decisions will be made for you whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Wow.
So, so he breaks down some things that open up the space, therefore, for debate and contributions by people who do not want decisions to be made for them.
Yes.
He talks about a lot of things in the book, and including war, terrorism, and I look at the softer side of things. So a critical lesson that he gives is on the power of simple stories. Harari says that human beings are not engineered to think in facts and equations on numbers. We are not made to process that, or very few people are made to process that. What we are made to appreciate collectively as humanity is stories. And even more powerful than stories is a simple story. And he says that is why in the previous century, in the 20th century, the story of communism and fascism really changed global systems and captivated the world. So if you want to influence in the 21st century, he says the way to look at it is through the simple story. The simpler the story, the better. He also talks about artificial intelligence, like he did in his book Homo Deus. And he predicts that AI is preparing to take over the future. He says that a lot of people think that artificial intelligence can never really feel like a human being or act like a real human being. But he's saying in some areas, AI is actually proving to be better at human traits than human beings. Than ourselves. For instance, in chess, he says during chess tournaments, judges are now looking out for players who are secretly being aided by computers. And you know how they're doing that? They are checking to see which players are demonstrating exceptional levels of creativity. The human
that
trait
it can only be a computer.
That it can only be a computer that can generate a high level of creativity, which is very ironic because we think that as human beings, we are the ones with the capacity to think outside the box and to respond to situations as it happens. Still on creativity, Harari makes a very bold prediction. He says that by 2050, the thought of having a permanent or long-term job or even a lifelong profession will be outdated, guys. So you will be changing your careers. And he proposes that in order to realize this, because people want more meaningful vocations, but they're focused on the no one wants to be a cashier for life,
Yes.
but you need to make
Absolutely.
money. So he
Yes.
proposes that governments around the world should subsidize universal basic services, which will give room for people to
do more
pursue
creative
more
things.
fulfilling vocations. But he says that the problem with the UBS, Universal Basic Services, is that human beings, unfortunately, are not built for satisfaction.
We want more and more and more and more.
Want more and more. Human happiness actually depends on expectations.
Yes.
And the problem with expectations is that it shifts. It's not objective. It shifts with changing conditions. Humans of the 21st century should be in control of their expectations. That's why he's saying. And he actually gives us a formula for happiness. He says happiness equals reality minus expectations.
So simple.
So simple. Simple story right there.
Yeah.
When I read about the simple story, I thought about the president's story during the BBI inauguration day.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it was so simple. It didn't have a synopsis, a beginning and end, a summary. It was just telling us
The 45-minute story.
45 minutes with
How he sat and he was asked,
with Raela, and it had such big impact.
how's your wife? How's your child? My takeaway from this book, guys, was the chapter on terrorism. And he says that terrorists are masters of mind control, and their currency is fear. Let me put it this way. They kill very few people, and yet governments institute so much legislation and policy to curb this thing. Now, if you to take the numbers, terrorism has killed about 25,000 people globally up to now. And I mean, you have last year about 7 people in Europe, 10 people in America. But still the focus on terrorism is crazy. Now, his point is this. You have about 40,000 people in America that die from car accidents. You have about 1.5 million people who die from car accidents in China. You have about 7 million people who die from diabetes every single year. Why isn't there any legislation that is able to curb this disease? Why isn't there legislation that is able to curb accidents? Why isn't there legislation that is able to curb air pollution, which kills about 7 million people every year? And it is because the currency of fear has transcended every single person. That you see blood and people shooting each other, you all overreact and you do all this manner of legislation. And he's got a quote here that summarizes the currency of fear being not commensurate to other diseases or to the responses governments should actually have. And allow me to read it. He says, terrorists resemble a fly that tries to destroy a china shop. You all know what a china shop is. The fly is so weak that it cannot move even a single teacup. So how does a fly destroy a china shop? It finds a bull, gets inside its ear, and starts buzzing. The bull goes wild with fear and anger and destroys the china shop. Now, the terrorist is the fly. It enters the bull. The bull gets a little bit buzzy, gets into the shop and destroys everything. Well, that should not have happened because the
fly didn't have the ability
to do it.
Yeah, I always feel like terrorism and things, they create such emotions for us. We all know you lost someone at Westgate or whatever it was, and so you feel like when you're being searched every day in your car, you don't think that it's an infringement of your rights. You just assume that it's something that you have to do to keep the terrorists away, and it's disproportionate because
absolutely.
How often do terrorist attacks happen?
Yes.
But it's also disproportionate because governments use that as an excuse to mine data.
Exactly.
Oh, yes,
exactly. To go through your stuff.
So
another thing that he talks about is the knowledge illusion. And here he says, we think we know a lot as human beings, but we know actually very little individually. And he says what allowed us to become masters of the planet is our ability to have groupthink. Our ability to realize that you know something, and I know something separately, but together it's more powerful, right? But he says as the world has become more complex and we've become more integrated into the global world, we've also become less aware of how ignorant we really are. Right? And he says people rarely appreciate their ignorance because they lock themselves in an echo chamber of like-minded friends, self-reinforcing news feeds. So if you like the Daily Nation, you always go to the Daily Nation, and so you get into this loop of always
the winning headlines.
You like Fifth Estate,
you're on the right track,
right? And most of our views are actually shaped by what he calls this groupthink, right? That rather than individual rationalizing, we hold on to these views out of group loyalty. So these groups are the identity is very strong for us. And so Harari says he talks about great power and how great power can sometimes distort reality. So when you have power, the way you see the world is a little bit different. And I thought about it when you've been seeing this video of the president sort of having his rants in his vernacular language, and he's in a position of power, sort of looking out into the world in his own little distorted, perhaps view. I mean, because it really is, right? And he says that there's something called the gravitational pull of power, the black hole of power. And so for those in power, the people surrounding you will never forget the power you wield. So if you think of yourself holding a hammer, everything is a nail. If you are the hammer, you see everything as a nail. If you have power, you see you think you have every right to meddle in every situation. And for instance, America, they hold the power, they think they have every right to talk about everybody's diplomatic, democratic situation around the world. But really, it's not their business. So he says that the way around this, and where you find revolutionary knowledge, if you do hold power, is to venture to the edge, to the periphery. And that is where unconventional ideas are found. Because the center of power holds this existing knowledge base. And the guardians of that old order don't want anybody to come close. So for the president, those people around him maybe don't want other new, interesting, like unconventional ideas that might disrupt and change a space. They don't want people engaging in that. So it was an interesting conversation.
Fantastic.
Very interesting conversation.
Fantastic.
Great book. We would highly recommend it.
Yes, definitely. So on a day where we had a double win from the Standard, the Raela I Know and a cartoon from Gado, I want to leave you with this. In the end, in the coming decades, the world will become even more and more complex. And as Socrates observed over 2,000 years ago, the best we can do under such conditions is to accept and face that we are that we are all ignorant.
Beautiful.
So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Star Times, and Pan Free Tech.